July second quarter meeting of the Metroplan Orlando Vision Zero Task Force. We've got a fairly full agenda for you today. Advance to that. Kind of run through what we are going to cover today. Rachel, can you advance to the agenda? There we go. So as you see here, we'll start off with some updates on. We've got still have the demonstration projects from our first Vision Zero grant. Go over some of the resources we've been developing. I've got some interesting crash type behavior trends to review. And we'll spend a good bit of time talking about the monitoring that we'll be doing for the plan. Talk a little bit about crash mapping, and some of the options and some of the new functions that are out there, and a little bit about FDOT's safety strategic plan and what we've been doing there. And then Humberto Casillero from Orange County will be giving us an update on Orange County's Vision Zero efforts, and we'll have just some miscellaneous wrap up after that. So let's go ahead and jump into the demonstration projects, and I'll hand over to
me.
That's Laura. Yes.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our task force meeting this quarter. So the next few slides, I'm going to be summarizing the demonstration project that we deployed in Seminole County as part of the initial Safe Streets and Roads for All grant that we were awarded back in 2022. Rachel, you can go ahead and advance the slide. So for this demonstration, the county partnered with Metroplan Orlando, of course, and Grid Matrix to monitor near misses at 15 key intersections throughout the county. The Grid Matrix platform uses AI-powered camera analytics, and our goal was to determine whether near miss data or events where collisions nearly occurred could be used to proactively identify and address our high-risk areas before crashes happen. So the 15 locations that are shown on the map here were spread throughout the county, with 10 of those locations on the county's high injury network. And then the other intersections were selected by county staff based on their local safety knowledge and citizen concerns. All 15 of the locations were at intersections where the county had existing cameras in place where we could implement the Grid Matrix software. And this particular study ran for 7 months from October of last year until April of this year. Next slide, please. So the goal of the demonstration was really to kick the tires on the platform so we could better understand whether and how this type of platform could be used as a tool to proactively identify where there are safety hotspots and to test some potential solutions. So several key insights emerged from the study. First of all, the data itself was highly valuable. On that previous slide, I talked about some of the metrics. We really focused on the near miss metrics, and we were able to analyze near misses by mode, time, and movement type, and offered some detail beyond what crash reports alone generally provide us. There were also heat maps that identified specific corners of intersections with frequent conflicts, such as US 1792 at Lake of the Woods Boulevard, and that was really helpful. The software was also able to help us identify new areas of concern or intersections where there was high near miss activity but low crash histories. One of those examples was at Reinhardt Road near State Road 417, which showed over 50 pedestrian near misses, but didn't necessarily show up on the high injury network. So the use of that existing infrastructure was really helpful as well, because it did help to minimize some of the deployment costs and time. And the platform allowed us for that real-time analysis for signal timing changes that we were able to implement mid-project. So that was a benefit. That said, the study was not without its challenges. We did have several software issues, including data outages, some incorrect or inconsistent filtering, and some discrepancies with our key metrics. So our study team really had to be on top of things, taking a look at that data as it came in to make sure that it made sense. Really thankful for the Grid Matrix team and the county for working really closely on that to make sure we were addressing those as quickly as we could. There were some camera limitations that we had to deal with that affected the results. Many of the cameras had a fisheye lens that made it really difficult to interpret the movement and sometimes misidentified activity in, say, an adjacent parking lot or at a gas station, and they identified those as intersection conflicts. And then I sort of touted how having the cameras out there already helped to minimize deployment time, but the setup did take a little bit longer than expected initially due to some camera compatibility and connectivity problems. And then thinking about sort of long-term and next steps for this type of deployment, scaling the platform county-wide would really require a more structured calibration and validation process, but all good things that we learned. Next slide. So in terms of overall takeaways, the near miss monitoring we felt shows some strong potential, but it remains as an inconclusive means of in terms of proving crash reduction. We'll have to, I think, do some more of these type of pilots to better understand this particular technology. Based on this particular demonstration, I feel the tool is probably most effective when it's used to evaluate changes. So for like a before and after evaluation type of scenario, rather than as a screen of all intersections indiscriminately. So in terms of recommendations from the project team for moving forward, doing a thorough validation of the data prior to deployment, we ran into some schedule issues on that for this one, but moving forward, we would definitely recommend that validating of the data before deployment. Comparing vendor offerings to see what other types of vendors may be able to offer, and then prioritizing deployments on high crash areas or areas where recent changes, whether it's from a development perspective or safety improvements have occurred. So in summary, I would say that this demonstration gave us a promising tool to advance our proactive traffic safety, gave us the ability to observe high-risk behavior before crashes happen, which we think can lead to smarter and more targeted safety improvements. For future updates, as we're thinking about updating the regional Vision Zero action plan, we'll be looking at opportunities to incorporate near miss metrics into our identification of systemic risks, not just those with crash history. So for anyone that's interested in receiving a copy of the final report, you can drop a note in the chat, or you can reach out to me via email, and I'd be happy to provide that for you. And for now, I'm going to turn it over to Adriana to talk about the Osceola County demonstration.
Thank you, Lara. We just completed the demonstration project in Osceola County. It is as the Seminole County demonstration project, part of the SS4A grant we received previously. The demonstration project in Osceola County was about evaluating pedestrian and bicycle crossings at selected locations within the high injury network. The locations that are listed in this slide are shown in the map. We included locations that were stop control intersections, signalized intersections, and a mid-block crossing. Each of these locations had a unique context and different characteristics, with some located in residential neighborhoods, school zones, and commercial areas. Next slide, please. As part of the evaluation, the crash data was updated using the most recent data from 2018 to 2024, just to verify if there were any new or change in the trends identified at this location. Then we collected data related to vehicle, pedestrian, and bicycle counts, also speed data and transit ridership. The study included field reviews to make observations at each location. And based on the findings from this evaluation, we identified site-specific recommendations aligned with existing guiding criteria, and including benefit cost analysis and concept plans for the potential improvements. Next slide. The purpose of the study was also to identify a systemic approach for applying similar improvements at other locations that share similar characteristics and needs. So the study also included guidance to evaluate systemic improvements at crossings locations, such as the potential for traffic signalization, roundabout construction, new mid-block crossings, and enhanced crossing treatments such as pedestrian hybrid beacons. The intent is for Osceola County to use these recommendations to identify other locations where these type of improvements can be applied. And if anybody is interested in receiving the report of the study, please let us know. We can share this information with you and hand you, make sure that you receive the report along with the appendices. And with that, I'll pass it over to Mike.
Thank you, Adriana. With Orange County, we had our middle school bike safety program. And you may recall from earlier presentations, our key limitation was getting enough instructors for the program. So we decided to shift a little bit and focus just on fleshing out the program's needs from the standpoint of looking at what the curriculum should be, what kind of promotional materials, administrative concerns, program tracking elements and materials that we need to do in order to just sort of get everything ready for implementation when we get to the point where we've got instructors who can actually deliver a program. Later this week, we will have a working group convening to review all these strategies. And we are going for end of this month, which is the end of our grant, for completing this this demonstration, and having that document, that package that anyone can reference from the standpoint of starting to get a program together. Later this afternoon, I'll talk a little more about the need for instructors and what that entails. But for now, that wraps up our demonstration projects. So next slide, please.
All right, thanks, Mike. I'm going to spend a few slides talking about some safety resources that are available to all of us here in Central Florida. But before I do that, I want to briefly pause and just see if anyone has any questions or thoughts on any of the 3 demonstration projects that we just provided an overview for. If so, you can go ahead and raise your hand. I'll go ahead and keep moving, but if I see any hands pop up, I will pause. We can come back to you. Next slide, please, Rachel. Okay, so first, just an update to let you know that we are working internally to transition the content from our existing Vision Zero CFL website. So that content is going to be housed under the main MetroPlan Orlando website. The revamped website is going to house various plans and resources. It'll include links to each of the local safety action plans in the region. There will be a page dedicated to safety data, data trends, and monitoring our progress on delivering the actions identified in the action plan. And then we'll have a page that helps identify options for transportation officials, elected officials, and members of the public to become a part of the solution to help us get to 0 deaths and serious injuries on our roadways. The revamped safety portion of the MetroPlan website will likely go live next month. So with that, please stay tuned. We'll send out an email once that's happening so everyone's aware, and so that you know that vision0cfl.org link is no longer live. And then once we are live, please do feel free to reach out to us to share any input relating to how we can improve the website as a resource for all of you and for the region. On to the next slide already. So a little bit of a deeper dive on some of the content that will be available. For those that attend our advisory committee and or our board meetings, you're already familiar with the safety moments that usually Mike, sometimes others of us jump in, but that we share at the beginning of each of those meetings. And over the last several months, we've been receiving requests to provide either the slides or the statistics from those presentations. So we're going to go ahead and move forward to making some of that material available through the Metro Plan website, with the intent being that a variety of elements related to whatever the topic is for that safety moment to be posted. This will include the slide deck that is presented at each of the cycles for the board and advisory committee meetings. There'll be a recording of the safety moment that Mike works with our comms team on after we get through the board meeting. If you want to have something that you can post either to social media or onto your websites. We'll have some links to any related social media content, either that we created or that we found online that we think is associated with the topic for that month. Again, that you can potentially share if you're wanting to put out safety content either on your website or social media. And then where it makes sense, we'll have links to information about associated training programs, policies, or other resources that may be of use within that topic area. Next slide, please. Another thing that we're working on within the safety resources world is that the regional data dashboard. This has been a huge resource for us internally. I hope that it has been a resource for many of you over the past year. And in the coming month or so, we're going to be kicking off a task to update the dashboard so we can incorporate crash data from 2023 and 2024. We'll also be making some updates to the dashboard, including splitting out non-motorist crashes to reflect the expanded list of modes that we'll have through the PBCAT module that Mike's going to be talking about a little bit later in this meeting. And we'll also be considering some updates to the look and the feel of the dashboard to better highlight any priority elements. So for those of you that utilize the dashboard frequently, or maybe not frequently because you have complaints about it, we welcome any input or requests that you have related to potential updates for the dashboard. You can feel free to share them during this meeting. You can drop a note in the chat. You can raise your hand. Or you can reach out. Or you can reach out via email following the meeting if you have any idea. No promises about what we're able to do, but we'll certainly take every
smartphone. Connect to a Wi-Fi network whose name starts with ThinkPad.
Okay, next slide, please. All right, as Rachel advances the slide, I wanted to wrap up this discussion about resources that are available to us, just to share and remind everyone on the call that there are a plethora of other safety-related resources not associated with Metro Plan Orlando. This slide summarizes just a few. So a number of safety-related programs are offered through police departments throughout the state, including those in our region. Adriana presented at our last round of board and committee meetings on the Teen Driver Challenge, which is offered through the Florida Sheriff's Association in order to address those primary factors that are really affecting our teen drivers. So that program is not intended to replace driver's education courses, but it's more designed to improve the skills and confidence of teen drivers with the intent to ultimately reduce crash risks. Then there's a similar program that Mike and I both talked about previous cycle for the board and committee meetings related to the SMART motorcycle safety course, which is available for motorcycle riders throughout the state. Then there's Bike Walk Kids, which is a youth-focused program put on through Bike Walk Central Florida that is aimed at teaching kids how they can navigate their neighborhoods and beyond with confidence and without getting into a crash. And I think we may have someone from Bike Walk on the line. Emily's on. So Emily, if you want to say anything about that, you can raise your hand. And then there is just other outreach to schools that we're aware of. There are various individuals that provide some outreach to our schools. We have worked with like Virgil Blocker, for instance, who attends meetings at high schools throughout Orange County. He attends some of those PTA meetings to share information about high crash locations near whatever school he's presenting at, so that parents and faculty can be aware of high risk locations in the vicinity of the school. And then they can encourage students to take extra care when they're walking or biking or driving near the school. So we support Virgil with safety data as he needs it for those presentations, and are happy to provide similar assistance if anyone knows of other individuals or programs that are doing safety outreach at schools that could benefit from some of the crash data that we have access to. And that's all I have for resources for today. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mike to talk about some crash typing and behavior trends he's been looking into.
There is a question about the
Thank you.
website.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Adriana. Let me
Yeah,
take
and well, yeah, I saw that too. So the question is whether the original Vision Zero Central Florida URL will redirect, because a lot of the local sites are already, and documents even are directing to that. So if Marianne Horn is available, she could probably answer that question. If not, we could
She, yeah. Marianne just replied. She said that yes, it will be redirected to the safety section.
good to know. Thank you. All right, onward to crash types and behaviors. Next slide, please. So first off, some good news that we're seeing a across the board drop in fatalities in our area, and this is actually a statewide trend. So we're not an outlier here. But what I thought I'd do is dig into the data a little bit, and where we're really seeing the drop is involving impaired driving and also impaired walking. I'll cover that in a little bit. But I put all of the different key behavioral factors in this chart, so it's a little bit messy. But what I highlighted there is that blue green line on the top. It's just overall fatalities, and you can see that we had a 28% drop if you compared 2022, which was the peak, to 2024. And projection wise, looking at 2025 based on the first quarter of this year, we look to be looking at a 42% drop in fatalities. When you look at the impaired, that's really the lion's share of that drop. What I'm hearing, sort of aside from DUI and how it's related, is that there's actually just a drop in drinking, period. Alcohol consumption is down. Although what's interesting is that other impairment, and so drugs is also included in these numbers, and those are also significantly down. So across the board, good numbers there on the reduction of fatalities through impairment. Next slide, please. So other interesting thing happening is when we're looking at non-motorists and just looking at all injury crashes, seeing something really unprecedented again, and that is that for the first time ever, bicyclists, and I have them in quotation marks in the legend there, will exceed the number of pedestrians in the way of crashes. If you went back 20 years, or when I started in this 30 years, there were twice as many pedestrian crashes as there were bicycle crashes. The reason for the quotations on bicycles, that number also includes scooters. Now we'll be able to break those out with our new PBCAT software coming ahead, so we'll have a better picture of what's going on. Next slide. Oh, and I should also mention that those yellow highlighted there, 2025, is the same projection as I mentioned with fatalities, and that's just looking at the first quarter of 2025 and projecting outward. So even when we look just on KSI crashes, again, we're still seeing that big drop in pedestrian crashes. Now, one possibility on this is that people are shifting modes. And so we're actually putting our MileVision cameras out at a number of locations where we've previously done counts. So we'll be able to compare what proportion of non-motorists are walking versus biking or using a scooter, to be able to compare 2025 to 2019. So that will help us understand how much of this drop is with issues such as impairment and how much of it is perhaps fewer people walking and more using scooters and e-bikes. So stay tuned on that. And then next slide, as I mentioned about impairment, this is also showing up in the pedestrian fatality numbers. Again, similar to before here, I'm actually comparing back to 2017 through 19. After 2020, we kind of had this post-COVID rebound where everything sort of jumped up. So I thought it'd be better to actually compare back to, because of the relatively smaller numbers for pedestrian and bicycle fatalities, compare it back to that pre-COVID era. But again, we're seeing big drops in pedestrian fatalities, 26% for 2024, and then continuing to plummet for 2025. We're on track to be somewhere around 40 to 45 pedestrian fatalities, which is something we haven't seen since for 20 plus years. When you consider our population increase, that is huge. Not seeing as much of a drop on the bicycle side. Again, that may be all about perhaps this shift from walking to other modes. So that's it for my updates on trends. If there are any questions about that before we move on to the next section. All right, I will hand over to.
Thank you much. So now we're going to talk about our plan monitoring. So the activities that we are planning to do as part of the monitoring progress. So as you all know, as part of our Vision Zero efforts, we are committed to monitoring regional progress toward the improved safety actions. The monitoring these activities will include regular updates to the Vision Zero website to showcase progress on regional and local safety projects and programs. So these projects or programs related to each of the elements of Vision Zero, safety, safer people, safer roads, safer vehicles. We welcome any updates that you want to share with the region as related to any projects or strategies being implemented as part of your Vision Zero efforts. If you want to share any lessons learned that could benefit others across the region, please let us know, because we are going to be incorporating that information as part of the updates that we will be working on for website. We will also regularly update our dashboard, identifying changes in crash trends, either at the regional level or localized changes that we see. So again, if you have a project with safety improvements, we can take a look at the crash trends in that specific area or corridor and see what potential impacts we can identify at those locations. And lastly, we will be also working on an annual report that will be available at our website. And this report will summarize key milestones and the status of safety actions and projects. Next slide, please. Okay, so more details about the annual report. This report is intended to monitor our progress, to help us understand what strategies are effective and where we need to incorporate some adjustments. It will include findings from the updated crash data based on the performance measures outlined in the Regional Action Plan. We will also include a summary on the progress on actions and strategies, as I mentioned before, highlighting key milestones and providing a description of next steps and lessons learned. Once we have that report available, we will notify all of you. I'll pass it over to Lara.
All right, thanks, Adriana. So we just wanted to spend a few slides providing a brief summary of the progress to date on the action steps are identified in our regional action plan. We've identified them or divided them up into the 3 core elements of Vision Zero, which is how we divided up our actions in the regional plan. So the actions that are shown in green have been completed. Those in that goldenrod color are ongoing or underway. And then we'll be summarizing the work completed to date for each of these actions in that annual report Adriana just mentioned. And we would like to include something similar for each of your local plans and their associated actions for inclusion in the annual report. We'll get more on that later. So briefly walk through these slides and just give a quick heads up on actions that are currently in the on deck circle for each of these core elements. So if you have any questions as I move along, please feel free to raise your hand. So within this leadership and commitment actions, you can see what has been accomplished and what's ongoing. And then in the coming few months, we will be starting to take up steps to first officially join the Vision Zero network. And we'll be working to promote safety-related legislation. Got a little bit more on this later in the presentation. Next slide, please, Rachel. Then in our safe roads and speeds category, we are going to continue to pursue road safety audits for corridors on the high injury network. A lot more on that coming at the end of this meeting. And then in the coming months, we're also going to be exploring some opportunities for formalizing target speed setting within the region. We'll be working with our communications teams and you, our regional stakeholders, to develop educational materials. And we'll be putting out a call for projects to utilize traffic signal retiming as a means of managing speeds. Many of you are probably aware that we have a signal retiming program that we fund annually that generally funds retiming on corridors for other reasons besides wanting to manage speeds. So there will be more information coming about the process for submitting requests for these types of retiming efforts at probably our upcoming TISMO and maybe also our TAC meetings. And we'll also send out some information via email. So please stay tuned for that and start thinking about if there are any corridors that you might want to sort of pilot using signal retiming as a way to manage speeds. Next slide, please, Rachel. And then finally, in our data transparency and accountability category, we're working to develop a formal methodology for evaluating safety projects. And we're looking forward to being able to share more about that process and how it can benefit the region at probably our next task force meeting. We're working on kicking off that before and after evaluation task. And then as part of our second Safe Streets and Road for All grant that we were awarded last fall, we're going to be pursuing various actions that are identified on this list, including at a minimum for the next couple of months, working to understand the involvement of unhoused people in crashes and identifying locations where there are underreported crashes, which gets back to that near miss that we talked about earlier. Some of the other actions that haven't been started yet are certainly still on our radar, but at this point, we're planning to pursue those in sort of the later years of our implementation for the Regional Safety Action Plan. Next slide, please, Rachel. All right, so to close out this section, I just want to plug again, Adriana did a great job, but plug again to remind you that we're going to need input from each of you that are from one of our local jurisdictions to make sure the Metro Plan Orlando team is aware of all the fantastic work that you have completed or have underway as it's related to safety within your jurisdictions. So this is going to help inform that annual report. And we're going to be in touch with our specific requests, but generally the types of information we'll be looking for is going to include an update on the actions that are within your local safety action plans, similar to what I just showed, to let us know what's been completed, what's underway, and what hasn't started yet. As Adriana mentioned, we're going to want to know about any safety projects, and this could include infrastructure or technology projects that you've implemented within your jurisdictions generally, and then of course, more specifically, anything that's been implemented on your high injury networks. And then if there are any educational programs or other safety initiatives that you've adopted or deployed over the last year, we would like to mention those in the annual report. So please do stay tuned. We will be in touch via email probably next month once we kick off the annual report task with some further instructions about what we're looking for and for information on where you can send your updates. And I will note that at least one person has already reached out to me to say, hey, it's about time for us to do our annual report as well. So we're absolutely happy to work with anyone that's willing to use sort of some of the templates that we use for the annual report. And we're really hoping that we're going to be able to pivot off what we're doing at the regional level to help feed some of the annual reporting that you all have agreed to do within your plans as well. And with that, I will turn it back over to Mike for a little bit on crash mapping analysis.
Thank you, Laura. And next slide, please, Rachel. Two things I want to talk about for regarding crash mapping. One is that we've been in discussions with a company called Cidian that has a platform they call Crash. And what it basically does is it uses artificial intelligence to do two key things. One is to improve the crash plotting accuracy, and the other is to improve the crash typology by looking at the narrative and using AI to basically read the narrative and get a clearer picture of what happened in the crash. And from that, they can actually produce simple collision diagrams that can then also be mapped. So that's kind of the front end of the tool. And then the back end, there's the reporting side where all this crash data can then be tied to land use data, infrastructure data, et cetera, as well as using it to then do assessments for identifying countermeasures and costing out those countermeasures. So we are in continuing conversations with Cidian. I'll also note that Orange County and Seminole County are part of those conversations. They've been in parallel interested. No commitments yet on our side, so we're looking at how this might fit in, and then how it relates to whatever improvements are already happening, say through Signal 4. So we're weighing all of that to see if that's something we're going to move forward with. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned a little earlier, we have this tool called PBCAT, Pedestrian and Bicycle Crash Analysis Tool. It's actually been around for over 20 years. It's developed by Federal Highway Administration. We've used in its earlier iterations going back to the late 1990s, I believe. And it's been part of the Signal 4 system for quite some time. Although in the 2021 or 2022 update for Signal 4, it sort of streamlined the PBCAT elements, so it didn't provide as much detail as we were getting in prior years. So we sort of put it on hold, knowing that they were going to go back to providing more detail. And at the same time, PBCAT was also updated. So that whole methodology got a little bit of an overhaul, some reconfiguration. So UF's team has been integrating the PBCAT 3 into Signal 4. And so that is now operational, and we're starting to do some testing. And so, basically what, if you can see the layout here, that you're actually able to go in and correct the crash plot location, which can be very important from a ped and bike standpoint, is, where's the pedestrian in the crosswalk, for example, or 100 feet away. So making sure that we get that correct. And then there are other data inputs that are part of this process. And then finally is going through a methodology of selecting what mode was involved, where did the crash happen, what were the relative behaviors and directions of the two parties, so that we get a full picture of what's happening for pedestrians. If you could click the next click there, Rachel, there's another panel to come in here. Which basically I've covered all of that except for that. So one of the things we'll be able to do is look at e-scooters separately. We don't currently have a way of doing that. And what's will be nice about this is because PBCAT 3 now treats all the modes in the same manner, we'll be able to compare behaviors and crash types across modes. And this might be really helpful as we're looking at this possible shift between, say, walking and scooters and e-bikes. And what does that mean as to, what types of crashes will be less common or more common with this shift. We'll have a much better picture of what's going on with non-motorists after we get past few years of crash data run through this new system. And that is it. If there are any questions on the crash typing, I'll pause there, and then if not, I'll move on. All righty, let's go to the next slide. Florida DOT continues its work with their safety strategic plan. There is a steering committee with representation from all of the counties within District 5. And a number of us are working on these focus groups, and I've been involved with the increased collaboration focus group. And if you could go to the next slide, Rachel. Oops, we didn't get the, somehow that slide did not make it in there. All right. Well, what we've been working on with the increased collaboration is that focusing on our road safety audits and making sure that we bring the community traffic safety teams on board with those. As we move into the next phase of our planning with the next SS4A grant, we will be, as Laura was mentioning, starting to implement those road safety audits. And it's really important that we get law enforcement's and the CTST's full participation in that. So planning that out as we go through that process. Another important part of the collaboration is happening over on the educational side. Emily may have some more to contribute on that, whereas the safety groups then reaching out to educational entities to strengthen those collaboration efforts. So I will hand back over to Laura to talk about thinking beyond infrastructure.
Hey, hi everybody. So I have been participating on the TBI or Thinking Beyond Infrastructure team. My team specifically has been coordinating with Central Florida partners to explore existing and emerging tools for speed data collection, looking for opportunities to support speed analysis and expediting potential speed or potential safety enhancements on both state and local roads. So our group has been working to identify what methods are currently in use, what the pros and cons are for each one, and the hope is to identify those opportunities that will provide the greatest accuracy while also being fairly user-friendly. Next slide, please. So our team recently shared a survey with users from across District 5. Thanks to those of you who are on the call that completed that survey for us. We appreciate it. We're in the midst now of reviewing the survey results that we received, and we'll be doing a few follow-up interviews with people to really dig into how various speed data collection tools are being used, which, if any, emerging technologies are being considered. And we'll also be reaching out to a few vendors to start compiling information related to their capabilities and contractual restrictions for each one. And the plan for us right now is to report out to the Safety Strategic Plan Steering Committee at their September meeting. I think it's on the 26th. And the overall intent of our group is to have probably a technical memo of some sort that summarizes the findings for all of the different types of data collection methodologies, and they range wildly, talk about what the pros and cons are of each, and really give that steering committee and FDOT some information as they move forward to start doing some decision making on what their primary data collection tools will be for speeds. We'll keep you apprised of how that goes, and for those of you who may be interested in looking at other options for your speed data collection, that will be a resource for you as well. All right, and on the next slide, Adriana is going to talk about what she's been working on with her focus group.
Yes, thank you, Laura. I have been involved with the Continued Focus on Safety focus group. We are currently working on developing a Getting to Zero checklist. This checklist will be designed for use during the scoping phase of the project development process. This checklist, the intent is that it will help identify critical safety improvements early on in the process, ensuring that these key safety elements are incorporated into the project scope. The checklist will address factors such as crash trends and types and crash types within the specific corridor or intersection. It will also identify safety considerations during the construction maintenance of traffic phase, and the need for enhancements related to bicycle and pedestrian facilities, signals and intersections, pavement markings, public transit access management. So a number of these factors to incorporate into the scoping discussions. It will also emphasize the importance of integrating feedback from the public and local partners to identify any need for coordination and ultimately improve the project outcomes. Our next step with this checklist will be to have the steering committee review and provide feedback. And then we will identify the project to pilot the checklist and with feedback related to the actual application of this checklist on a real project, be able to fine tune and finalize the checklist. This checklist will be available for any applicable projects for within the FDOT District 5, but also local agencies and local municipalities. So this will be a resource for everyone. And with that, now it's time to hear from Humberto.
Okay, thank you so much, Adriana. Thank you so much to Lara and to Mike and for the wonderful job the Metro Plan has been doing recently. And I am very encouraged to see that the KSI numbers that they're dropping. So hopefully with the next Dangerous by Design report, we will have much better numbers. So I'm happy to be here with you this afternoon so I can talk to you about the Accelerated Transportation Safety Program. Rachel, thank you so much for forwarding the slides. And this is a very important project for us. On the presentation, we will be talking about the introduction, mainly about the goals and the objective and how did this program originated. We will talk about our funding sources, the proposed county projects, also transit projects, teaming up with links, and then the progress status where we are. Next, please. It is very important to understand that in the year 2022, Mayor Demings, he went to the ballot for the sales tax initiative for Orange County. And through that process, although it was painful that the initiative didn't pass at the ballot, we were able to learn a lot of great things. One of the things that we learned was that for Orange County to be able to be home addressing all the transportation needs that we have within Orange County, we need $21 billion. The proposed sales tax, a 1% sales tax for 20 years, would have generated $12 billion. However, it did not pass. Next slide, please. Yeah. Mayor Demings conducted several meetings, and we went to all the 6 districts within Orange County. And one of the key things, as we were having all the tables and having the discussions with the public, is what did the public want? So for the most part, the public wanted to have safety and operational projects, improving our mass transit system, also using technology, the TISMO, increasing the pedestrian and the bicycle safety, signal timing, also the Sunrail, and to a very minor extent, the widening of existing roads. Next, please. So during a very robust discussion after the severe disappointment that the sales tax initiative didn't pass, Mayor Demings, he came to the logical conclusion that still the sales tax didn't pass, but the transportation needs remain the same and that we needed to do something. Based on that analysis, he conveyed all the senior management and said, put together for me a transportation project or initiative so we can start dealing with the needs that we have in the county. They needed to be very short-term implementation. And also at that time, we had the conversations in developing the Vision Zero action plan, and it needed to be related with the Vision Zero strategy. Next, please. So as a result, then it was the birth of the Accelerated Transportation Safety Program. So how much money could the county afford and what were going to be the funding resources that we were talking? So Mayor Demings said $100 million, which actually that is very significant. And the money was going to be parsed into 2 categories. $55 million was going to be for Orange County, addressing the needs of pedestrians, bicycles, and regular safety needs for the motorists. And the other $45 million was going to be to address the operational need for links in terms of their headway, but also to make some improvements with the bus shelters. Next, please. Now, if we talk about the comparison, 100 million versus the $21 billion, we know that this is a drop in the bucket. However, as an agency and as our commitment to our citizens, we needed to do something, and $100 million, although it's not what we were anticipating, it was a good start. Also, we took a look at our proposed sales tax growth. So we determined that yes, that we will finance it over 20 years. However, we were going to be delivering on these projects within 5 years, and the actual useful life will be for 30 years. So that was a very great initiative and proposal for us to move forward. Next, please. So funding, next slide. So the funding sources, when we were discussing it, we had 5. One, it was the state share sales tax. This is the local government housing sales tax program, gas taxes, transportation impact fees for the development, property taxes, and grants. Next. So looking at the breakdown of this $100 million, when we decided was 55%, this was similar to the initial breakdown that we had with the sales tax initiative. However, the county portion increased from 45 to 55. Within the sales tax at that time, it was going to be 45 for the county, 45% for the county, 10% for municipalities, still 45 for transit. So just breaking down the $100 million is going to be $55 million for the county, our CIP projects, and $45 million for links. Next slide, please. So within these 2 major categories, then we have subcategories. For the county, in terms of safety and what we had heard from the community, number 1, it was that some roads that were very dark. And as a result of that, there was increasing crashes and the public needed to feel safer. So lighting was a key component. The other one, it was for the vulnerable users with the installation of the sidewalk. We do have our ADA transition plan, but the money that we had allocated for the transition plan was around $5 million per year, and that included curb ramps. So this additional $25 million can certainly go a long ways. And the last one was safety. And what I would like, the safety projects started within the traffic engineering, but this was more of a corridor approach for existing roads that they had already been widened from 2 to 4 lanes divided, but had a significant amount of operational and safety projects. Then the remaining $45 million was for links to increase the headway and to improve the operational frequency, but also to make sure that we constructed bus stops and improved the service for the riders. Next, please. Yeah. So this is the breakdown that we had over 5 years. If we can go to the next one. Thank you, Rachel. Next slide. So for the lighting, prior to establishing this goal for the lighting, what Orange County had allocated was $200,000 annually. So we knew that that one was not going to be providing a lot of the benefits. We had an assessment as we're putting together this initiative, and we had about 166 miles of functionally classified roads to the cost of $20.7 million, and another 230 miles of local non-subdivisional roads for $30.5. So this is in excess of $55 million. So the $15 million that we are proposing, we assume or estimated that this will cover about 131 miles. So definitely this was significant. this selection of the corridors, and we will have in the next few slides a map that indicated all the corridors that we had at least brought forth as part of the selection criteria. Yeah, but definitely lighting was a major component. Now, let me just also emphasize that this was only roadway lighting. This was not intersection lighting. So on the Orange County was going to be upfronting the money. Duke Energy, they were the ones developing the plans for us. Next slide, please. So as you can see, this is the potential lighting projects, so that we have more roads than funding that we can address. But definitely this lighting need, it was across the county in each one of these districts. Next slide, please. So how do we break down the money yearly? So definitely we front loaded a little bit during the first 2 to 3 years, and just trying to catch up on the third year and then completing for the rest. So we did understand that part of this on year 1 and year 2, we needed to be very aggressive during the design of the lighting for these roads. And then we will go to construction, and you can see here some of the lighting fixtures. Next slide, please. The other component that it was critical was the sidewalk program. We know that as part of our Student Pedestrian and Safety Committee, meeting with our partners, there were indications from the Sheriff's Office in terms of which corridors that were going to be very important. However, we also had another list from our ADA transition plan in terms of what other corridors could be benefited from this strategy. So based on the need that we had for the next 10 to 15 years as part of the ADA transition plan, we had probably about close to 200 miles of sidewalk that we needed to complete. So with the Acceleration Transportation Safety Program at the tune of $25 million, we could complete 25.7 miles. However, there's an additional unmet needs for 173 miles. So definitely this is also a drop in the bucket, but we needed to start. If we can proceed to the next slide. As you can see in the map, so there is a severe concentration of sidewalk that is needed in the underrepresented areas, that is within the local communities in District 3, 6, and also District 2. And then in the outer districts, some of them, they are rural, and some of them, they have the new development. So with that, we discussed our plan with each one of the commissioners, and then we presented the candidate roads, which they had also input in terms of which roads they would like to address first. Next, please. So the same strategy, it was implemented very aggressively within the 5 years. If you can take a look at two pictures, there's two types of projects that we had. On the upper picture, you have a very nice neighborhood with the sidewalk. So on this type of projects, we needed to engage a consultant to provide the design, just to make sure that we address not only the right-of-way needs, but the drainage, so on and so forth. On the more rural segments, on those ones, we just met with the contractors. We have 6 term contractors to do sidewalk and also to do curb ramps. So basically what we did is that we met with the contractors on site. We had a concept plan where we wanted to have the sidewalk, and pretty much we designed it with the contractor on the field. So these were a much faster projects to show some progress. Next slide, please. And last but not least, it was the safety projects. On this one, I don't know if this was divine providence, but we knew based on a lot of crashes that we were experiencing in our 4-lane divided projects, is the one that it brought our attention and significant concern was the Clarcona Ocoee at Gaymar. There was a fatality, 2 sisters and their kids 5 fatalities that happened at that intersection. So we knew that although these roadways had the capacity, still they had several safety and operational concerns, and we needed to do something. So our strategy was just to take a look at these corridors in a very systemic approach. So we had Corridor 4, we had Clarcona, we had Seidel Road, Town Center, the Rio Grande. This one was our road diet project that we completed last year. So it was a very aggressive and systemic strategy. Next slide, please. So some of the components or tools or traffic safety countermeasures included these 4 main categories. Speed management, we all know that speed kills, that if a pedestrian gets struck by a vehicle at 20 miles per hour, the rate of survival is 90%. But if the speed doubles to 40%, the rate of survival is only 10%. So we know that that is exponentially. So speed management strategies with bike lanes, roundabouts, travel lanes was critical. Also about median separators, intersections, signals, speed cushions, and the mini roundabouts. So all of these, they have been part of our strategic plan. We have on the Clarcona Ocoee, we are under construction for 2 signals, one full intersection and the other one median intersection by the Walmart. But also we have some access management. We are designing about 3 full roundabouts within the corridors that we mentioned, which we're going to be completing the design of those roundabouts towards the end of our fiscal year and going to advertise probably in October or November of this calendar year. Next slide, please. Let's talk about the transit projects. So within the $45 million links, as part of their strategy, they look at a series of corridors and routes that they had. So they indicated that they were going to be breaking down their contribution, $30 million to enhance the operational frequency, and another $15 million for the reconstruction or redevelopment or new installation of the bus stops and services. Next, please. Regarding the bus stops and the shelter features, we know that part of this, as you can see in this picture, you have your shelter, you have your bench, you have your trash receptacles. Some of these bus stops, they're used for advertising to receive some additional income. Bicycle parking with the multimodal accessibility, so on and so forth. So this is a very important program. Also within the existing transit bus stops to provide additional bus bays and maybe to have some restaurant for the bus operators. Next slide, please. So on this map, the goal for all of these projects, including with the links, was to make sure that we address the needs of all the Orange County districts. So there were several routes that they were identifying. The only difference was for District 2 that it was a neighborhood link, as you can see in the upper left-hand corner, that it encompassed an area. But the other ones, it will just improve some existing bus routes and make sure that we deliver also with the installation of the bus stops. Next slide, please. So here that you can see in the pink, light and dark pink. So a lot of bus stops, which is very critical just to make sure that we are ADA compliant. That is one of our main goals for us in Orange County, just making sure that ADA compliance not only is a federal mandate, but also is part of our strategy. Next slide, please. So what is the progress status? And this is slide, so as you can see, we have 2 colors. We have the dark navy, which it indicates based on the different categories on this bar graph, how we're going to be spending the money for each one of the sidewalks lighting, the safety, and also the links, and then the orange. Now, what I want to bring to your attention is that the orange, it is expanded. If you look at the orange, you say, well, Orange County, you have not made a significant progress. as you had indicated, but there's a big difference because expanded, it means that already they have been constructed and we pay the invoices, but there are some projects that the money has been encumbered. For instance, for the two signals on Clarcona Ocoee, it was at the tune of $2.2 million. So we just had a pre-construction meeting, that it was probably about 2 months ago. So definitely some of the expenditures for the big ticket items that which are the mass arms already, that has not been expended. So regardless, we are moving at a very aggressive pace. If we can move to the next slide. And this is telling a little bit more of the story for the fiscal year 24-25, where we have the green color is about expanded, but also the yellow, it's telling the story about encumbrances. Although this might be just accounting numbers and just telling the story, but it is important to know that some of these projects we needed to design, we needed to advertise. In some of these, we could use our existing term contracts, but everything is on the table, because we need to make sure that as we are looking for some additional sources, that the public knows that we are committed and that we will deliver what we promised to them. Next slide, please. So regarding the links, have there been any progress? So we have been collecting data. So on the left, on the spreadsheets, you can see the route number of the corridor and then the average ridership. So it seems that it has been increased with the exception of the ones at the bottom, but also with the grand bar charts, you can see that from last year to this year, there have been some increase. So it's moving in the positive trend, and we're just beginning. So we have 3 more years to go. Next slide, please. Regarding the bus stops and the shelters on the upper right-hand corner, you can see that some of these sites we needed to design, we needed to get some permits, and also they are under construction. On the right hand, you can see the districts and what it is in progress, and what it has been completed, and the number of sites. Unfortunately, in District 4, we do not have any of the bus shelters at this time, but there will be more to come. And then if we can have the next slide, please. So a lot of work, all hands on deck in Orange County. We have had the partnership of many divisions, not only traffic engineering, but engineering, highway construction. Also, we have links. So we did submit, part of the things is that we want to showcase at all levels, not only within the region, but also nationally. So we submitted this project, and actually we received the NACTO, the National Association of Counties Award. So I want to part us with the sentiment that it has in the award. This is by Benjamin Franklin, where it says that without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. So for us, we know that the proof is in the pudding. Currently, Orange County is looking for some other means, and perhaps we are discussing whether to go for another transportation sales tax or for an infrastructure tax. But we felt the need that we needed to deliver to the public, to tell them that we are serious and that we're listening, but also that we're going to be pursuing safety and operations within Orange County very aggressively. So with that, that concludes the presentation. If there are any questions, comments?
I don't see any hands raised. Somebody can go ahead.
All right, well, thank you very much, Humberto. It was excellent, very comprehensive overview of all of your efforts. Glad to see all the work that's happening in Orange County. All right, so wrapping up this afternoon. Next slide, please, Rachel. We have our Vision Zero Safety Speaker Series ongoing. We just had our Pathways to Moving Projects Forward just last week. You'll be able to go to MetroPlan's YouTube channel if you missed that and you want to review it. We're going to be sending out the handout on this that will have the link. So if you want to view that, our next session sometime this fall, we'll be talking about e-micromobility, those electric scooters and e-bikes, and what they mean from a safety standpoint for our system. So look forward to that. Next slide, please. There are a number of new traffic safety laws on the books. Just briefly go through those. You see there's been some expanded criteria for hazardous walking zones. Speaking of which, that's something we're incorporating, into our planning processes as well. New definitions and regulations for micromobility, and this also allows local governments to set minimum ages and government IDs for micromobility devices. Also allows for providing training. Doesn't allow local governments to mandate training, but just to provide it for micromobility. FDOT has been given the power to make some speed limit increases for limited access highways. New plans for technology incorporation into our strategic intermodal system and signals. And then finally, one that's gotten the most attention, I think, is the new criminal offense for the super speeders. If you're going more than 50 miles an hour over the posted or more than 100 miles per hour, that can result in jail time, some very significant fines, and license revocation. I think it was like 3 minutes after midnight on July 1st that the first super speeder was pulled over in Orange County. All right, next slide.
It's that mouse or Mike.
Next slide, please. There we go. Okay. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, our holdup for the middle school program has been getting enough cycling instructors. And so we're still working on that. So this is basically a call for interest, not necessarily for you specifically, but if there's anyone that you know that you think might have the potential to be a good cycling instructor. I mean, they should be someone who already is a fairly avid cyclist, because being a cycling instructor doesn't mean standing there and telling people what to do. You get on your bike and you show people what to do. So you have to be able to demonstrate the skills and the strategies. We are taking the approach of working with Cycling Savvy program, which you may know that I've had a hand in developing about 15 years ago. And so this is all handled through American Bicycling Education Association. Those who want to proceed with this would first have to take the basic Cycling Savvy course, which is a 10-hour classroom plus on bike, where you learn all the bike handling skills and strategies for operating in traffic. And then after that, then there's the advanced certification process, which is some home studies, some online modules. There's some optional Zoom sessions where you get to interact with other instructor candidates. And then finally wrapping up with a 3-day in-person intensive certification seminar where you get to do practice teaching and really get a clear, full understanding of what it takes to help other people learn these skills and strategies. So if there's anyone you know who think would be a good candidate for this, please send them my way. You'll have my email address, and then I can get them additional information to help them along. All right, next slide.
All right, thanks, Mike. Back up with one last bit of business before we turn it over for member comments. As many of you may know, that second grant that I mentioned earlier from the Safe Streets and Roads for All program had been on hold for quite a while, but our coordination with FHWA began again in earnest last month, hooray. So we have submitted our draft grant agreement to FHWA, and it's currently, we believe, under review by the Florida Division Office. We're hoping to have a fully executed grant agreement by early October. And one of the primary activities that we've discussed before that we plan to fund with this grant is going to be the completion of as many road safety audits or corridor evaluations as we can complete in the region to help support project development efforts for safety improvements throughout the region. Our goal with these RSAs is to advance near-term projects that will benefit from a robust safety and evaluation to help us with scoping and what elements need to be reflected in your CIPs. So please keep that in mind. We're not looking to do these RSAs to have them sit on a shelf, but if there are near-term projects that you're planning to advance and they could really benefit from some additional safety evaluation, getting out there and doing those road safety audits, please let us know. Any corridor that's on any high injury network is eligible. Those that are on multiple high injury networks are the most desirable. From a management perspective, we're going to be delivering these RSAs similarly to how we developed the safety action plans. So for those corridors that end up making the cut that we're able to fund and complete an RSA on them, we will be looking for the local agency to assign a project manager to help us with coordination for the walk audit availability, to sort of gather all of the various people that are going to be the most helpful as we're out doing the field reviews. They'll be involved in helping to find a location for the kickoff and the findings, review meetings, making sure that someone in leadership is involved, if not for the field review, at least to help with reviewing the final reports. And to help us with ensuring that the documentation and other deliverables that are part of the RSA go through those timely reviews. So we'll work with whatever PM is assigned to finalize a specific scope of services. And then one of our GPCs will be assigned to support the local team to complete the evaluation. And then there will be a Metro Plan PM similar to how we did the safety action plans, just to make sure everything's moving along as it should be and that we're meeting the grant requirements. So we will be sending out an email in the next couple of days with that call for requests. We'll have all the information that I just talked about and more about the types of projects that we're looking for, what your requirements will be if you decide that you wanted to pursue an RSA. So I encourage you to start considering which corridors you may want to submit. Once you get that email, absolutely feel free to reach out with any questions that you may have. We're very much hoping that we will get a ton of requests from you guys. And so we would like to get input from any interested task force members that would like to help with reviewing those requests and determining which ones are the highest priority in case we're not able to fund all of them. So if you're interested in assisting with the process, please either can raise your hand now, put a note in the comment to us hosts and panelists, or you can follow up via email to let us know that you're interested in helping out in that way. We anticipate meeting up to 2 times, so it won't be a heavy lift. So if you're on the fence, know that it shouldn't take too much of your time, but it will really help us and make sure that we're getting input from all of you on which RSAs that we should be funding first. And with that, before we turn over to member comments, you can put it on the next slide, Rachel, but I will note that we did not include a slide on this, but Humberto just inspired me. And I just wanted to share with everyone that Vision Zero Central Florida also won an award. And I really think this is all of our award, not just Metro Plan staff, but also our consultants and all of you that were either project managers or were on working groups working on all those safety action plans. It was a huge lift. We're really proud of the work. We're hoping that it's helping all of you as you continue on your safety journeys. So that award will be presented to us at the APA Florida conference in September. So we'll have some fun pictures that we'll include in our NAST task force slide deck. And with that, I will turn it over. If anyone has anything that they would like to share, please go ahead and raise your hand and we'll go through the list if anyone has anything they want to share with us today. Give it a few seconds to see if there are any hands. Don't see any. So I think we can go ahead and move on to the public comment slide. Thank you. We only have a few on our attendees side, but if you would like to make a comment, go ahead and raise your hand and we can unmute you. Skip that a minute. If anyone comes through. While we're waiting, thank you all for your time. And this is fairly long meeting, but we appreciate this opportunity to share with everyone what we're working on, to let you know how you can help support, and always feel free to reach out afterwards if there's anything we can do to help you. All right, I don't see anything, anyone wanting to make a public comment. So I think with that, we can go to the last slide and say thank you to you all. We look forward to seeing you at the next task force meeting, and probably most of you before that at one of our board or advisory committee meetings. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.